the UAE-Japan collaboration. There's a really, really strong bond here. From the Mars Hope probe that was actually launched from an island in Japan, of course, that was a very, very good example of collaboration there. As well as, the recent announcement of the UAE being a part of the Lunar Gateway space station. So JAXA is also a partner, of course. So Koichi, why don't you start us off about the bond and the cooperation that you're seeing and how important that is to you?
Well, it is very important. It's a great honor for me to participate in this collaboration between the UAE and Japan on the space exploration, especially this human space flight with Hazza and Sultan when he was there earlier this year. I had a chance to work with him for about a week on board the space station. And I still remember, I was at the launch site of Tanegashima Space Center when EMM, the HOPE mission was launched. And that was in 2020 on the Apollo landing day of July 20th. It's amazing. And also prior to that, the CaliphaSat, that was the very advanced Earth observation remote sensing satellite, operated or developed by MBRSC here. And I was also there at the launch site when it was launched in 2018. So launching and working in the space station program and also experiments. So we're doing a lot. And in the Gateway, UAE is now committed to participate in the Gateway in the airlock provision. And we are providing ecosystem, environmental control, and life support system, as well as logistics supply to the Gateway. So there are a lot more that we can collaborate in the future. I'm looking forward to it.
Very exciting space, and it really is such a special collaboration and bond that you have. Over to you, what does this type of collaboration between the UAE and Japan mean to you?
Definitely, in general, international collaboration is the key for human space flights. And also in satellite development. As he mentioned, Wakata, we started with Japan launching CaliphaSat in 2018 and then HOPE probe also. So the relationship is really growing strongly. And one of the experiments that I conducted on board the International Space Station also, Sultan, he did the same experiment, the Endpole. That's one of the educational experiments that we did on board the International Space Station, where also we communicated with the students from Japan on that experiment. That was really impactful from both sides.
Really inspirational and tapping into that next generation that we were speaking about on the other panel as well. Koichi, you really are a veteran of space flights, and you have actually spent a year in total, if you add it all up, in space, which is absolutely incredible. Take us through a typical day then on the International Space Station. Are there any sort of rituals and routines that you need to sort of put into practice to make sure that you're mentally sort of sane, I suppose, as well?
Yeah, so every day is different. There's no such thing as a typical day, but we usually get up at 6 o'clock and we have a morning conference at 7:30, and we get to work right after that. Of course, we have breakfast and we clean our teeth and stuff like that, and then we start working at around 8 o'clock. And it depends on the day. We do a variety of experiments, systems maintenance, like cleaning the toilet, replacing parts. And then sometimes we have to conduct a spacewalk, like Sultan did. And then also when a cargo ship arrives, we need to use a robotic arm to capture it. So if something breaks, we have to fix it right away. And then we have lunch, and we have evening conference again with the mission control centers all around the world. So it's a very different day, but it's really exciting.
I can imagine the element of teamwork is really, really essential, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But Hazza, what was the most sort of challenging aspect for you when it came to life in microgravity? And sort of what did you roll out to try and sort of help with those hurdles and complexities?
It's a new environment. Just being in space floating, it's something challenging. Well, we didn't want to do that, so through training, we did a lot of training in different countries just to prepare us for the environment on board the International Space Station. Also, for example, the parabolic flight where we just experience microgravity for maybe 20 to 30 seconds, and in that you can just have the feeling of just being there, but still being there for maybe a couple of days, 24 hours, it is something different, totally different. Your body will react differently. Your brain will just trying to rewire again, just to figure out where's up and down, where's how to navigate. And these also, by itself, experiment that scientists, they want to know how your brain is rewiring again in that microgravity environment. Plus also, it is tough. It's like you feel like you start to walk again. You learn how to walk, but you are floating. And you can know the rookie from the veteran by just how he moves inside the station. It's a very interesting environment. And the amazing thing is your work is everywhere, like the ceiling, the floor, the sides of the International Space Station. And it's a very unique environment where you can conduct experiments, you can live with astronauts from different countries. And that's the beauty of the International Space Station. It's gathering all humanity together. I mean, like people from different ethics, religions, colors, backgrounds, coming together for one goal. That's amazing.
What an incredible experience. We're going to talk about the different cultures and language barriers and things like that a little bit later on as well. But also, tell us a little bit more about the other projects and experiments that you've worked on, because you also worked on JAXA's Kibo educational experiment. You were mentioning these experiments here. Anything else that you can sort of tell us about, maybe a nice sort of anecdote or story you can share with us today?
It's amazing. Just living on board the International Space Station, it's your home, your office, your lab, your observatory where you can watch Earth from there, and where you can conduct experiments also. So as I mentioned, Antball, one of the educations or one experiment that it's more like outreach, where you just trying to challenge the students on ground, how they can reprogram this small like robots or just floating. And there's a camera and you have to communicate, interact with it. And also, it's, in future, they want to understand how they can implement also the AI on this system, which is it's the talk here also on the summit. So it's very interesting. One of the experiments I think it's very interesting to mention is that I didn't participate on, but I watched, and I think Sultan also, who was there participating on that, which is the 3D bio printer, where you just printing human tissues. And they started to just print the meniscus of the knees. I think when you get old, you need that.
We definitely will.
Yes,
My
so
goodness.
it's a very interesting environment. You can conduct a lot of experiments on ourselves and new technology, and that's the beauty of it, yeah.
Very beautiful. And Koichi, what about you? How has your experience been, especially with experiments here on Earth? So how have those, you know, including being a NASA robotics instructor, and being a part of the NASA Extreme Environment Mission Operations missions as well. How has that impacted your time aboard the ISS and some of the experiments that you've made there as well?
So as I said, we do a variety of experiments, but we need to have a teamwork to accomplish. Sometimes, I mean, quite often we face challenges and problems, and always teamwork plays a big role in solving those issues. And before we fly in space, to build up our skills in expeditionary behavior or teamwork skills, like leadership as also followership and self-control and stuff like that, we have a lot of like outdoor type training, like living in minus 30 degrees, 40 degrees mountain in Wyoming in United States for 2 weeks, with 7 crew members. Sometimes we go to the underwater, see a research facility to build up the skills of a teamwork in order to be able to cope with the unexpected situations, and with a teamwork we can accomplish that. And when I did the spacewalk last year, we of course encountered some issues, but with the big teamwork on the ground as well as in space, we were able to, we were able to overcome these problems, and we were able to achieve it. But as I said, there are a lot of things that we train to cope with zero gravity. But things like I lost this ring in zero gravity. If you lose it, you cannot find it. It'll be gone. I did not know what to say to my wife, but the following day, my colleague Rick Mastracchio, an NASA astronaut, he found it. So some things that you cannot train is like, how to cope with this zero gravity. Experiments, spacewalk, those things you can be trained. But you tend to lose a lot of things really quickly, and it's gone. So.
Very frustrating at the same time. And as you said, it's all about teamwork and trust, and you must form some incredible bonds, with the people on the same missions and things as well. Speaking of people and training and cultures and things, that's what I wanted to go back to with you, Hazza. So you've trained in Russia, the US, all over the world. Has it been quite important to train in these different environments and with different cultures before sort of going to the ISS? And how have you managed have there been any cultural language barriers, or has it not really been a problem? We're all there for one mission, maybe no one sort of thinks about that type of thing.
Believe me, it's challenging. I mean, like when you get old, it's just hard to just harness new skills, but the way they train astronauts, it's really very skillful, and through the time, they figure out the way that you just give us the skill set that we need for our mission in general, and also to specific space flights. I remember my first day at Star City. There is a guy, he's very old, like an engineer guy. He's just talking in this foreign language. Vediti is this taraketa. So he was like talking this very like, for me it's like new language. What he's saying, and there's like interpreter there just trying to translate everything. And I just challenging just to learn new language. So we had to learn Russian at that time. Because the soil is from inside, it's all in Russian. The buttons, the procedures, everything. If you need to talk with your instructor or with your commander, it's all in Russian, so it is challenging. So you have to learn new language. You have to, the astronaut, he's the plumber, he's the scientist, he's the medic, he's the photographer, he's the reporter on board the International Space Station. So to harness all of these skill sets, maintain them, and also you have to understand the different culture. Sometimes maybe which is in your culture is maybe it's okay, maybe in their culture it's not okay. So you have to understand that, and that's really, it's just amazing how astronauts, when they are sitting together, just talking about their culture, celebrating and talking about each one. So it is very, very helpful, and it's very interesting. I remember that when we started to train at Star City also, again, I saw Wakata there, I saw astronauts from different countries, from Italy, from Russia, from United States. We are sitting together on one table, talking, laughing, and talking about our backgrounds, our culture, and that is very, very interesting. We just maybe have a lot of conflicts in ground, but it is very, very peaceful up there, and always, all the astronauts agree on that. We need to take the politicians up there, let them watch Earth from space.
That's a great idea, actually. Yeah, because you cannot fall out with anyone up there, I presume.
Exactly.
Everything's got to be, in tip-top shape.
Yep.
And things like that. So, so interesting that you've had to learn another language as well. So the ISS might be as big as a football field. I mean, it sounds pretty big, but actually it's very closed quarters and it's quite limited. So I hear, obviously. How do you maintain your sort of mental health around that? Obviously, you can't be claustrophobic. You know what you've got to do. How do you train your sort of mental capacity to deal with that? To both of you, but let's start with you, Koichi.
Actually, it's a pretty big volume. Like it's twice as big as a Boeing 747 jet.
Okay.
So my apartment in Tokyo was this small. So compared to that, it's a mansion for me. So I never felt it was so small, but it was a confined environment. You cannot go out. And then we are good friends. I mean, they're good colleagues. But we quite often miss our families and friends. And we have like a real-time, like a TV chat with families and friends. And also we can call from the space station to ground, but not from the ground to the space station. So these are very important to be able to cope with, some solidarity. And then food is an important part. And we have a variety of food from UAE, from Russia, from US, Europe, and Japan. And when we have some parties, like a Christmas Eve or somebody's birthday parties, we bring our own foods and then get together and eat. So food plays a key role in like having good stability psychologically for a long duration flight.
I bet it does, because obviously, food's so important, and everyone's got so many different tastes and things like that. So what about you, Hazza? What sort of mental preparation do you need to do beforehand, and how do you cope in that environment?
It's a challenging environment. So by talking to veterans, astronauts, just to learn from their experience, you understand more about the environment and how you're going to cope to the situation on board the International Space Station, plus the training and the preparation that you had. So it is prepare you in a way that really you are mentally prepared for it. One of the things that I would like to mention is the MBL training. It is the simulation of just doing a spacewalk. We call it spacewalk. Literally, we are not walking in space. We are just translating with our hands, doing up everything there. So it's a very challenging environment. But all the astronauts, they conducted the spacewalk for real time. They said that the training, it's helped us a lot in terms of just the environment, the training, the instructors, the pacing, and everything. We felt like we are back to the MBL, like the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, where we're just doing one of the simulations.
One more question each, because I know we are running out of time, sadly. Koichi, as the first Japanese astronaut to participate in the assembly of the ISS, tell us about some of the challenges that you faced during that period of your life.
I think we have encountered like technical challenges when we had the Space Shuttle Columbia accident. For almost 2.5 years, Space Shuttle could not fly, and we had to depend on the Russian Soyuz spacecraft to transport. But because of the international collaboration, we were able to survive these kind of technical difficulties. So I think challenges are like technical and also this, geopolitical issues. But thanks to the collaboration in the space station program, we were able to survive it. So I'm glad to be part of it.
Very impressive indeed. Final question. The talk of the town is the Gateway Lunar Space Station. How do you think scientific and international collaboration for this new experiment and project is going to really shape the future and the narrative for space exploration? I'd like to end on that note with both of you.
May I start? And I think to be able to continue our human space exploration in a sustainable manner, it's very important to have this solid partnership. And Gateway plays another important role. Space Station demonstrated that for over 3 decades, we were able to continue, regardless of these issues that we have encountered, but to continue sustainably the surface of the moon and also Mars missions. I think Gateway is a key, station to be able to utilize for future missions. And UAE is now participating in the Gateway program, and so we're also part of the Gateway program, as well as the Surface program. So I'm looking forward to participating in that, and hopefully, Haza and Sultan will be operating a Japanese rover on the surface of the moon, and I'll be waving at them at the time. So
why not? I think yes. I agree with you, Wakata. It is very interesting. Now we have to challenge ourselves. After staying in the International Space Station for this time, like more than 3 decades, we understand how we can go forward from there. Our eyes on Mars. So to reach Mars, we need to learn how to push it a little bit further. So we'll go back to the moon. We will stay there. We understand how we can live there, build the habitat, and from there we can jump forward. So that's very interesting, and UAE is really doing a great job. Just in terms of having a role in building one of the parts in the Gateway, and by that we will learn more about how we will be active partners, and we show that commitment from the beginning by building satellites in-house to developing human space flights, to start from a short duration mission to long duration mission, and we want to be more active in this part. And now we are 4 astronauts. Noor and Mohammed, they're gonna graduate next month. So we'll keep doing it. So we are committed to do that.
What a truly exciting time. We cannot thank you enough for joining us and sharing such a unique experience with us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our guests. Thank you.
Thank you.